gains and profits should start paying their fair share of taxes.
Joining us right now is the former CKE restaurant CEO, former Labor Secretary nominee as well, and the author of The Capitalist Comeback, author Andy Puzder. Great to see you, Andy. Thanks so much for joining us.
Great to be here, Maria.
What do
Thank
you think about this? The whole presidential election being set up, capitalism versus socialism.
I think it's great. I think it's a huge win for the president. You had an earlier guest that was talking about income inequality being a big issue in the election, and I would really like to see people on the news networks focus on how Democrats measure income inequality, because what they usually use is a report by a professor named Satz out of UC Berkeley that uses pre-tax income and pre-government transfers income. In other words, he ignores the fact that the top 20% of earners pay 95% of taxes, and that ignores the fact that a lot of that money gets transferred down to the bottom 20% through things like Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, Section 8 housing. So you're really not accurately measuring income inequality. The CBO looked at it and found that it was 25 to 30% less if you included the government transfers and taxes. The second thing is, if you just want to look at wages, that's great. Under President Trump, wages have been up over 3% for 8 consecutive quarters.
Yeah.
If you look at lower income people, like people in restaurants and hotels, it's up about 5%. It's harder to find blue-collar workers than white-collar workers for the first time in decades. And the New York Fed just came out with a report that said starting salaries over the last 4 months have gone from $55,000 to $66,000. So Democrats are going to be in the position of telling working-class Americans, who do you believe, us or your wallets? Well, I mean, their wallets are bigger.
The Democrats are saying, though, that a big portion of the population does not have any money for an emergency. They can't come up with $400 if they had an emergency. So what do you think the answer is to lift people out of poverty, to lift the lower end of the income scale?
Look, there's only one way to reduce income inequality and make sure people at the bottom end of the income scale have more money, and that's to increase wages. And the only time wages go up is if you have economic growth, you have employers competing for employees, driving wages up. And we've seen that. We've seen that in this economy. Amazon, Target, Costco have all gone to $15. The major banks have gone. Bank of America is now going to $17. They say they're going to go to $20.
That's right. Yep.
That's going to drive wages up. It will reduce income inequality.
All right. Well, you know, wages are up, Tom Bevan, 3.25% year over year.
Yeah. Andy, this is Tom Bevan.
Hey, Tom.
Good to see you. So,
good to see you.
Look, the reason Democrats are proposing many of these policies, Elizabeth Warren just came out with a student canceling all student loan debt. We're talking about Medicare for all. We're talking about free child care, et cetera, is because there is actually some popularity among the public for these policies. And even Trump has admitted that Democrats, this is going to be a challenge for him. Democrats want to put I think he said, quote, Rolls Royce in everyone's pocket. So how does Trump combat that when knowing that there are big swaths of the population out there that are open to these kind of, socialist type policies?
Let me say two things about that. One is you could implement all of Elizabeth Warren's tax increases and all of Bernie Sanders' social redistributionist policies that take those tax dollars and spread them to the bottom. And the way they measure income inequality, it wouldn't change income inequality $1. President Trump has a problem. It's hard to fight against free stuff. If the American people don't want economic growth, if they don't want to see their lives improve based upon what they do, if they don't want to see the kind of society that a capitalist economy creates, if they just want free stuff like the people in Venezuela once did, or the Soviet Union or Cuba, well, then they should vote for people like Bernie Sanders, who loves being a millionaire, isn't at all ashamed of it, criticizes Amazon and Netflix for not paying taxes, right? He criticizes them. However, he used every deduction he could to lower his taxes. He took full advantage of the tax rates and the tax bill he voted against. He then comes out and says, well, I paid what I owed. Well, guess what? So did Amazon and Netflix. I mean, they're all paying what they owe. He's a hypocrite. He's out to get power. He does everything. Look, it's sort of a, do what I say, not what I do type of philosophy. I mean, I'm not ashamed of being rich. Well, neither is President Trump.
Yeah, good point. Go ahead, Jack.
Andy, this is Jack Brewer. I think the heart and soul of America, the American working class, want to reward people that work at the end of the day. And so I think it's really a messaging issue that I see for the Republicans, to be honest with you, because if Bernie Sanders goes out to certain populations and he's showing that Amazon or Google is paying a small amount of taxes, that can possibly get into the ears of a lot of Americans. How do the Republicans combat that?
Well, the first thing I do is point out that he's a hypocrite. His defense is that he's paying what he owes. He's criticizing companies that also pay what they owe. So I think it's, first of all, what he's doing is hypocritical. Second of all, we could explain the reasons companies like that aren't paying taxes at the moment. For example, they had big capital losses, that there were people that invested in those companies when the stock was very low, put their fortunes into it. Jeff Bezos bet everything he had on Amazon, created the greatest distribution system in the history of the world, benefits all of us, and the only reason he's paying lower taxes is because he's recouping the losses that Amazon made, or Amazon's paying less taxes, because it is recouping the losses it incurred when it was first formed. So we can explain it.
Yeah. Let me ask you about Walmart. We've been talking about this morning. The company unveiled a store in Long Island powered by AI. It's called the Intelligent Retail Lab, uses artificial intelligence-powered cameras to monitor inventory and stock levels. Andy, this is your business. Tell me about this and how AI is really going to change the shopping experience.
Well, I think it'll be tremendous for shoppers. I think it'll make things easier. It'll also make it so that individual businesses are more profitable. They can try and hire better employees. They can lift wages as they compete for employees. And businesses will be able to open more outlets. The more profitable an outlet is, the more of them you can open. So it can create more jobs. It can increase wages. You got to remember, at the beginning of the end of the Obama presidency, beginning of the Trump presidency, there was a big push in the restaurant sector to automate. And McDonald's has done it, Wendy's has done it, all of the big companies have done it. Yet hiring in that sector has continued to grow. We've now got more Americans working than ever before, and a big portion of that comes from the lower end, the lower working class jobs that have been created, despite automation. So I think if we have economic growth, automation is very healthy because it makes businesses more profitable, they can grow. If we don't have economic growth, it could be a problem because it would replace jobs.
Andy, good morning, it's Jackie.
Hi, Jackie.
I just wanted to get back to this theme of capitalism versus socialism. The two sides have become so polarized as of late, and obviously we're discussing the fact that President Joe Biden is putting his hat in the ring for the presidential race. And so the question here is, there was a time where it was good to be middle of the road, but actually, is that going to be a disadvantage for him?
Well, I don't really know if Joe Biden, I would consider him middle of the road. Maybe in today's very, very diverse, where there's such separation between the parties, he'd be closer to the middle. But look, he was part of the Obama administration. If you want the Obama administration level of economic growth, wage growth, and job growth, then you should vote for Joe Biden. If you want to continue with the great prosperity we're experiencing, stick with President Trump.
All right, we will leave it there. Andy, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Good to see you.
Andy
Thank you.
Puzder. Coming up next, Kyler Murray.